Hi guys, thanks for tuning into the channel today. I've had this bike now about 3 days and haven't had the chance to ride it. So today I'm going to do do 3 preps on this bike to get it ready. And while I'm at it, I might let you know that when I do the series on this Honda this time, rather than just get out and ride on that like I did on the first one, or the tan, I'm going to do more of an outdoors in the scrub type of experience this time. So that would mean that I'd be going out there, ride along, pull over, we'll have a coffee break, might do a bit of cooking along the campfire type cooking, might even show you a few different tricks or something which may help you in a crisis situation if you're ever out, and you might get some benefit out of this by looking back later on and say, oh yeah, what came up on this channel was very interesting, and who knows, it might even save your life one day. So just hard to say how that'll go. I haven't tried this sort of thing before. I've been more interested in getting on the bike, getting out there and test riding it, but you know, seeing I live in such a good area where I can go into the scrub in all areas and only about 5 minutes from home, I think this would be a good opportunity to get out there and, you know, try a bit of the old Aussie bush skills at the moment, because, you know, my bush type skills, or well, I wouldn't call them skills, but what I know about it goes back, you know, to when I used to be a very keen hunter, going back 50 years ago. And you know, some of the things what I will try, you know, I used to do then, and some of that I've picked, the other stuff I've just picked up as times went by. But you know, I've never tried that on this particular channel before, never done anything like it, so it might work, might not. You may like it, or it may not even be worth your trouble watching. So only one way to find out is with this bike, and this will be the exhibit we're going to use. I think this will be the perfect bike to get out there, because I really know how well this bike goes and how it handles the scrub in the Aussie bush, and I think it'll do the job well. And if it does the job well, which I'm sure it will, all I have to do is live up to my part and see what I can put together to make something more interesting in that line. So what we're here today is to do an oil change on the bike, even though it's got 0 kilometres. An oil change on the bike. I want to put in the magnetic sump plug. I also want to pull out the oil filler plug and fit a temperature gauge on that one, and this is what we'll be using today. Fit the temperature gauge, oil temp to the motor, magnetic sump plug, large magnet to go on the base of that plug, actually the ratchet. So we'll get into it. And there we are, 0 kilometres. Now, when I say I'm going to dump this oil, I'm not going to dump it and throw it away, because I really don't know if it's a break-in oil or not. What I'm going to do is drain the oil, put the magnetic sump plug in place, because I think that's really important with these bikes, and they've only got a spinner type oil filter on the side of them, and I think the drain plug with the magnetic plug on it and the magnet really works well. I'm going to ride the bike then probably say 200 kilometres. And then I'm going to dump the oil and put my choice of oil in it after that. So I'm on the left side of the motor, and we're going to get under it. Heading up in here, just loosen the sump plug. And for those who are wondering, it's a 17mm sump plug. Okay, so there we go. While I'm at it, I'll swing around the other side and take off the plug. May help it drain a little bit better. Well guys, you can actually see a bit of junk floating around there on the bike that's done no kilometres. There's one piece there, not sure what it is, but I'll strain that when I put the oil back in it and get rid of that bit. If we look underneath, we will see that I've put the magnetic plug in. I've also put the magnet on top, so that part's out of the way. Up here we've got the engine temperature gauge, or the oil temp gauge, which I think looks pretty good, and it works all right. Worked pretty well on the other bike, so it'll work well on here. I think it just looks good from a bit of a novelty point, but you know, you may like to buy one or you may not. Last but not least on my mod, the chain adjuster. I've marked it so I know where it is exactly, and then I can turn it out either side, one click at a time when it comes to that, what I need to adjust the chain. Now just to do a recap on this bike, one of the main reasons I decided to dump the oil right from scratch is, like I said, to put that magnetic plug on and the additional maggot on the sump plug. Now when you look at it, what I pulled, or how much oil I pulled out of a brand new motor, and you look at how much oil runs these motors, and you look at what a hard life some of them take in these, I must admit the first one, you know, I moved it around a bit. So I think the best idea for anyone that buys one of these bikes to do very regular oil changes. So not just long distance, but in this case of mine, I'll give it one at 200 kilometres, and then I may give it another one at 5 and 1,000, and then after that 1,000 k's afterwards. So that's the plan on oil changes. Now if you think that's a bit of an overkill, well it probably is, and you wouldn't go anywhere near that if you had an external oil filter. But when you take into account these Honda CT125s, here in Australia cost almost 8,000 right away, you know, like it's a fair bit of money to fork out on a bike if you don't at least look after the main part of the motor, and that's giving it frequent oil changes. So I think if you stick to that one, that'd be pretty good and get you out of a lot of problems further down the track. And that's exactly what I'll do with this one, because I actually like this bike in the red, and my original thoughts in the first place was for a red bike, so that's the direction I'm going. Idea of marking the rear chain, like I said earlier on the clip, that means that when you get there and adjust it and do it one segment at a time on each side of the chain, when you pull it back, you got it lined up pretty well, because naturally you would have thought they'd had the chains on pretty straight from factory. But apart from that, I hope you think about subscribing to the channel. Even if you're not subscribed, if you think it's worth the look, give it a thumbs up. I'll catch up with you at a later date, and we'll be heading out shortly into the scrub, and we'll be doing that business on the coffee break and a few bit of cooking out there, and see what we can get onto that line. And I'll still take the bike out on other regular rides too. So once again, thanks for coming in, taking your time to view the channel, and I'll catch up with you on the next clip.